Capcom, an industry juggernaut with the prestige of beloved games and iconic franchises under their brand. Truly one of the top tier studios in this industry, and their library is still expanding to this day. But with a catalog as dense and deep as theirs, there tends to be some games that get lost to time and memory. But not today. We're turning back the clock to January 25th, 2001, when the birth of a new classic Capcom franchise would be born. With the first game in the series, this is Onimusha Warlords.
Resident Evil.
After the critical success of Resident Evil, Capcom along with Yoshiki Okamoto and Keiji Inafune crafted an idea to create a ninja samurai game in the same vein as Resident Evil. Set in the Sengoku period of Japan, early concepts of the game had the players storm through a mansion similar to the one in Resident Evil, filled with all the goodies like booby traps, enemies around every corner, hidden walls and entrances, and scrolls containing special ninja magic and techniques. You can tell which aspects stuck around in the final product. The early days of the game's development had been intended for the N64's Double D, but was made for the PlayStation and later moved to the PlayStation 2, which in hindsight was a good choice since it made history and reached an incredible milestone. What made that milestone be, you ask? Well, in an absolutely stacked year filled with iconic games such as GTA 3, Metal Gear 2, Silent Hill 2, Gran Turismo 3, and frickin' CVS 2, just to throw that in there for me. No, seriously, go look at all the list of games released in 2001, even DMC1 was there. But out of all of those games, Onimusha was the first PS2 game to reach 1 million units sold and 2 million units worldwide. And of course the games I mentioned outsold Warlords in the end, but still, that initial surge really helped the game's popularity amongst the community. And in an age of word of mouth and magazines to rely on for info, selling a million units helps just a little bit. And the story still remains the same in 2022. I bought this game on sale based on a recommendation. I hadn't seen any gameplay. I heard of Onimusha in the series, but I never knew exactly what it was, so going in blind, this could have been a big mistake. But I was really surprised to play through this for the first time. The story was really interesting, centering around the waning Sengoku period in Japan's history, where war and death are ravaging the lands. Our protagonist, Samanosuke Akechi, who is voiced, modeled, and mocapped by the actor Takeshi Kaneshiro, who did a phenomenal job in the role. So the story starts when Samanosuke receives a distressing letter from his cousin and princess of the Saito clan, Yuki, that she and the Ibayama castle servants are in danger, but just before Samanosuke can get there in time, Yuki is kidnapped. With very little to go off of and a ticking clock, Samanosuke, joined by the fearsome kunoichi Kaede, then search the castle grounds to find Yuki and uncover the secrets behind the Genma infestation. With nice twists and turns in the overarching story of the demons and their origins and how much they control the world, also the power of the Oni Gauntlet, which was bestowed to Samanosuke to help him fight against the Genma, or the demons if you will. And this newly acquired power isn't all as it seems to be, as the gauntlet has some drawbacks to it, also leading to the true sinister plot to the kidnapping of Princess Yuki. I don't want to detail too much of the story, as I think this is something you should experience for yourself. Seriously, I think this game's story is compelling and engaging and worth its salt. And you may be asking, what about the gameplay then? How does that hold up 20 years later in 2022? Are the controls good enough? How's the level design and the progression? How are the fights, the enemies, the bosses? How does this game flow all together? Does this game still hold up in 2022? And I'm happy to say it does. This game has aged like a fine wine. It holds up extremely well. The combat and moment-to-moment gameplay felt quite rewarding, taking a lot of cues from Resident Evil with tight corridors, controls, and multiple enemies. The atmosphere around the village and the castle is really well done. It sets the tone and despair that the stronghold is being overrun by the Genma, and the local guard can't keep up with it, especially in the underground dungeons where it just oozes that sinister aura, and the lakefront side where it's calm and tranquil. But Samanosuke, being an excellent samurai, is up for the task. And playing as Samanosuke is really fun. This isn't just a basic hack and slash, there is some depth here. Hell, there's even techniques and skills that I still haven't even mastered yet. It feels great to slash, kick, and stab demons. Even the sections with Kaede are really fun. The contrast in styles between the two is something to take note of. It's like Samanosuke is being a more traditional samurai, using spacing and with clean, hard strikes and blows and being patient, while Kaede is more agile and nimble, able to evade and mix up enemies. It's like Samanosuke is playing Samurai Showdown and Kaede is playing Marvel vs. Capcom. That's like the comparison that I came up with, and they could have easily made Samanosuke the only playable character in the game, so this was a great call to let you play the two of them. And another thing that was great is the progression. This game gives a good range of weapons, each having their own elemental abilities, from lightning, air, to fire. The weapons have some sick designs too, and as a nice touch, each time you level up the weapons themselves change. Almost as if feeding the weapons Genma's souls just fuels them more if they were living and breathing things. The EX abilities also have a great feel to them and a nice way to combo into them. They didn't feel too OP, but they still made you feel really good for using it. And it definitely helped with moving through the game because this game has some pretty difficult sections. And I'm conflicted on this part because the lack of healing does provide some challenge of grinding it out and getting better, but on the other hand it gets almost a little too much when you walk into a room and there's with 1 HP and there's like 10 archers on the roof and there's 5 big dudes you gotta deal with. It's brutal, man, and it's a little much to deal with all at once. Like, especially when I tried this game's version of the Bloody Palace, I didn't really have any healing, so I went into this thing with 1 HP and seeing how far I could go, and every level I went, I was hoping just for like a smidge of healing or anything, and it didn't give that to me. So I can see where the RE influence shined through, of being brutal like that, where you have to struggle and you have to survive to get through this. So that was a really good call of combining the two elements of Resident Evil and the action gameplay of Onimusha. You bring that together and you really have a lot of dynamics going on when you play through this. Even the boss fights were a prime example of this. Even though I went into some of these fights with little to no healing at all and little to no resources at all, they were still fun to fight and very rewarding to beat. They all had cool music, cool scenery, cool just aspects about themselves personally, like the bug lady when she comes out the first time and reveals herself, like that old school CG horror going on. It really freaked me out. It's very like it'll make your skin crawl. But honestly, when I saw firsthand, when I booted this game up for the first time and I saw like, oh, this is like a Resident Evil or a Dino Crisis, so I honestly expected tank controls and this is gonna be horrible, this is gonna be bad to play, but I really thought I was gonna uninstall and delete this game within the first couple of hours of me playing, and I'm glad I didn't. No, I'm grateful I didn't do that, because my impressions of the game improved insanely quick to the point where I couldn't put the game down. It hooked me right away, and that surprised me since I picked this game up on a whim with no prior knowledge and a recommendation. And maybe my video isn't doing this game enough credit and giving it the justice it deserves. And if that's the case, I urge you to play this game for yourself and give it a shot. It's a short, focused game that you can knock out over the weekend, so you don't gotta worry about adding more games to your backlog like I'm doing right now. Seriously, I have way too many games to clear out of my log, so please send help. I'm dying, I'm begging for help here. But if you like that OG RE feel with sick and rewarding combat and a focused story, give Onimusha Warlords a shot. Even if you don't try the other games in the series, which I plan to do at some point. I'll tell you what, if you really don't like the game, you bought it and you hated it, you just completely wrote the game off, you can come back to the comments and yell at me and call me a piece of shit and do whatever you want, say whatever you want, and I'll take that out. I really feel all that matters is we put more people onto this game so they have the opportunity to take a chance on it. At least that's my goal with this. Anyways, thanks for stopping by and checking out the video today. I appreciate you and thank you for hanging out today. So, as always, stay vigilant and take care of yourself.